Did Angel Reese just become the Chicago Sky's biggest problem instead of their supposed franchise player? Think about it. She's suspended for technical fouls, missing games with a so-called back injury, and then publicly throwing teammates like Courtney Vandersloot, Hailey Van Lith, and Rachel Banham under the bus. Meanwhile, the Sky actually played better without her. So why is Reese demanding trades and roster overhauls when her own turnovers lead the league, despite missing weeks? What happened next? Her teammates pushed back, the front office punished her, and the Sky actually found life without her. What happens when your supposed franchise star openly insults her teammates in the middle of the season? That's exactly what Angel Reese did, and it wasn't some vague criticism about needing to be better. She went straight for the jugular. In a Chicago Tribune feature, she snapped, "I'm not settling for the same shit we did this year." Let's see what Angel Reese had to say. "I'm not settling for the same shit we did this year, oh boy." Reese told the Tribune, "We had to get good players. We have to get great players. That's a non-negotiable for me. I'm willing and wanting to play with the best. And however I can help to get the best here, that's what I'm going to do this off-season. So it's going to be very, very important this off-season to make sure we attract the best of the best, because we can't settle for what we have this year. Overhaul this roster." And then she doubled down by pointing at the very people in her own locker room, questioning whether Rachel Banham or Hailey Van Lith were even good enough to be part of a playoff team. That kind of statement doesn't just rattle fans, it cuts right through the unspoken locker room code. You don't trash your teammates in the media. "We can't rely on Courtney to come back at that age that she's at," Reese said. "I know she'll be a great asset for us, but we can't rely on that. We need someone probably a little younger with some experience, somebody who's been playing the game and is willing to compete for a championship and has done it before." Courtney Vandersloot, by the way, 2-time WNBA champion, 5-time All-Star, 2-time All-WNBA first team, left the New York Liberty, a championship caliber team, to come help out the Chicago. Oh damn. Oh damn, oh damn, oh damn. It's alright, Courtney. It's alright. The ripple effect was immediate. Courtney Vandersloot, a veteran who's been carrying Chicago basketball for years, suddenly found herself portrayed as too old to help. Never mind that she's still producing, still setting the table, still one of the smartest floor generals the league has seen. Instead, her own teammate dismissed her like she was a busted trade card sitting in a box. And the irony? The Sky front office literally reshaped their roster around Reese last off-season, trading away the number 3 overall pick Sonia Citron for Ariel Atkins. That wasn't a small gamble. That was the organization saying, "We're all in on building this thing around Angel." But instead of unity, it only magnified the tension. Now picture this from the perspective of Ariel Atkins. She's brand new, a respected player brought in to push the Sky upward, and what does she walk into? A situation where the franchise cornerstone is practically treating the roster like pieces on a fantasy draft board, saying they're not good enough. Atkins handled it with class, publicly defending her teammates and stressing collective improvement. Reese's tone couldn't have been more different. "We need better players." The contrast tells you everything. One player focused on unity, the other on upgrading everyone but herself. And that's the wildest part. Reese wasn't just criticizing from a position of dominance. She was piling up turnovers like candy at Halloween, getting suspended for technical fouls, and disappearing for weeks with a back injury. Everyone in that gym could see her flaws, but only she seemed blind to them. To the team, it was like watching a player complain about the paint job on a car while forgetting she's the one driving it straight into a ditch. The result? Instead of rallying the locker room, she isolated herself. The more she aired frustration with her teammates, the more those teammates realized she wasn't standing with them. She was standing apart, pointing fingers. And once that line was crossed, there was no repairing it. The Sky didn't see an inspiring leader in Reese. They saw someone tearing them down from the inside. From words alone, the cracks were obvious. But when her actual play entered the picture, things spiraled even further. What happens when your own teammates stop protecting you and start speaking their truth? That's when you know the locker room has reached a breaking point. Angel Reese's comments to the media weren't just forgotten lines in an article. They lit a fire straight through the Chicago Sky locker room, and suddenly, players who once stood by her didn't feel so eager to stay quiet anymore. Well, it goes to show, if you're gonna go at a legend, you bet not miss. As we know, Angel Reese come out this week. She absolutely crushed her own teammates into the dust, and she even decided to go after a legend. The legendary Courtney Vandersloot, who of course blew out her ACL at the beginning of the season, and she is in the midst of making a comeback. And of course, Angel Reese made some comments that were none too kind to a legend. The mess started with Reese taking public shots at her teammates. Instead of talking about her own turnovers or her growing list of technical fouls, she questioned the value of veterans and role players, singling out Courtney Vandersloot and even calling out the production of Hailey Van Lith and Rachel Bannum. To fans, those comments sounded arrogant. Inside the team, they sounded divisive. Players understood that every word would circle back to them, whether they wanted to be in the spotlight or not. Ariel Adkins found herself in a tough spot. She was brought in during the off-season in a trade the Sky made largely to support Reese, not create friction. Adkins tried to hold the line by defending her teammates, offering calm words instead of lashing out. But you could tell it wasn't easy. Nobody wants to walk into a new team only to find day-to-day life dominated by drama created by someone else's ego. Adkins should have been focusing on basketball. Instead, she was cleaning up a mess. Not everyone had the patience. Rachel Bannum, a veteran who has seen more than enough locker room drama across her career, made it plain. Her response cut through the noise. "I think I just don't really care. I'm so over all this." That wasn't apathy, that was exhaustion. Bannum doesn't have time for a teammate publicly dragging her down when she's trying to grind out another season in the league. Then came Vandersloot. The idea that she was too old to make an impact didn't sit well with someone who has built a career on consistency and grit. She shot back by saying, "My age is absolutely not a factor. I am coming back better than ever." Vandersloot has earned every ounce of respect from the league, and she wasn't about to let her legacy get reduced to a punchline in one of Reese's interviews. What unfolded was that rare shift where teammates stop covering each other in public and start prioritizing their own careers. Reports circled that players were unhappy about being named directly in comments. The tension boiled over into a players-only meeting meant to address the elephant in the room, Angel Reese herself. That conversation forced everyone to face reality. They didn't have to carry the target Reese placed on their backs. Angel Reese will be lucky if she has a third of the career that Courtney Vandersloot has had. I don't think it was Kennedy Carter that blew that locker room up. I think it was Angel Reese. There, I said it out loud. I think it was continuous drama, and that's when the glass finally shattered. Protecting Reese wasn't protecting the team. Her teammates realized that if her words kept defining their season, they'd all be dragged down with her. So instead of shielding her, they made it clear they were finished. What started as a war of words was now showing up in the way the team played whenever Reese wasn't on the floor. Sometimes the loudest statement is made when you're not even on the floor. For Angel Reese, that statement came during a season where she found herself sidelined for almost every type of reason imaginable. She wasn't just missing games because of an injury. Though she claimed a back issue kept her out for weeks, she also piled up suspensions. The league sat her down for an automatic one-game ban after she picked up her 8th technical foul of the season. That whistle came from a play against the Connecticut Sun, where she made contact with Aaliyah Edwards' head while battling for a rebound. Not only was it another moment in her long list of disciplinary problems, but it also forced her to miss a game against the Indiana Fever, a matchup that everyone had circled because of her rivalry with Caitlin Clark. On top of that, the Sky themselves eventually hit Reese with a suspension for conduct detrimental, a label that tells you her problems weren't just happening on the scoreboard. And here's the irony that stings the most. Instead of the Sky collapsing when Reese wasn't there, reports started surfacing that the team actually looked sharper without her. The ball moved faster, the floor looked less chaotic, and their offense didn't seem weighed down by someone demanding touches and immediately coughing the ball up. Let's not forget, she somehow managed to lead the entire league in turnovers despite missing nearly a month. Think about that for a second. Most players need heavy minutes all summer to pile up those mistakes. Reese pulled it off while not even showing up for portions of the season. Angel Reese facing her first bit of accountability here in the WNBA unapologetically Angel. The Chicago Sky don't care about any of that right now. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care about go out and say what you want. Be unapologetic. They have no time for that. They have a business to run. They have teammates that they care about. Players on the roster that they're looking for. You know what? We gotta send a message. This isn't cool to Vanishloot. This isn't cool to Banham. This isn't cool to Hilly Van Lith. We gotta show the other players on the roster we have your back as well. But the absences weren't just happening during tip-off. Reese didn't even travel with the team while she was injured. It made people question how invested she really was. Compare that to Caitlin Clark, who stayed glued to the sidelines even when her own body limited her play earlier this year. Clark guided teammates during timeouts, clapped through every run, and showed a commitment that screamed leadership. Reese, she wasn't even in the building most nights to pretend. Meanwhile, her battles with referees became so common that one situation turned into a courtroom-like appeal. The Sky actually challenged one of her technicals, hoping it might be rescinded. Just picture that. Your team lawyer's up to try and reduce your foul count because you can't stop arguing on the floor. And when those appeals or suspensions pulled her out of the rotation, the locker room didn't groan. By most accounts, the mood lightened. Rachel Banham even said flatly she didn't care anymore. That's the sound of teammates finding peace in her absence. So what did all of it reveal? The truth no one on the Sky wanted to admit out loud. It wasn't Chicago holding Angel Reese back. It was Reese pulling Chicago down. And once fans put that into perspective, the contrast between her and someone like Caitlin Clark only got sharper. One player complained her way out of chemistry, another lifted her team into playoff contention. Guess which one fans respect? The league has leaned into this so-called rivalry between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, but the comparison gets less interesting every time. On one side, you've got suspensions, trade demands, and locker room drama. On the other, you've got a superstar who stepped into one of the worst franchises in the WNBA and somehow convinced everyone to believe again. It's not much of a mystery why fans are gravitating in one direction. Indiana Fever destroy the Chicago Sky in Indianapolis on Saturday. Guess who wasn't there? Angel Reese. Angel Reese declined to travel to Indianapolis, and her coach came out and said something about, she's just focused on her rehab right now, and, she's day to day. We've never had an explanation on what caused the back injury. What's a time frame for her recovery? It's similar to so-and-so's back injury. This is something she struggled with here or there. All we've heard is day to day, and Angel Reese has disappeared. Clark has become the clear foil to Reese because her actions actually match the leadership talk. While Reese trashed her teammates publicly and floated the idea of needing better players, Clark was pulling chairs up on the sideline when she was too banged up to play. That mattered. Teammates don't just see you hit threes or throw dimes. They notice if you're invested when the camera isn't on you. Clark was still pointing out sets, still clapping when Kelsey Mitchell caught fire, still pulling Lexi Holder spots where she could get open looks. The Fever didn't see her absence as abandonment. They saw it as presence, even in street clothes. The difference is almost too obvious. Clark leaned into the team she had, while Reese acted like she wanted a trade machine to magically spin her better running mates. Instead of calling for upgrades, Clark's way was celebrating small wins and stacking confidence. When Aaliyah Boston started to impose her power in the paint, Clark amplified that by constantly finding her. When Mitchell lit up defenses, Clark played the hype woman. And when Hall hit from the corners, Clark turned it into momentum. That reinforces trust, and you could see everyone on the Fever start to play freer because of it. Fans and analysts have noticed. Indiana was supposed to be crawling through another rebuild year with modest progress. Instead, they showed life down the stretch, even pushing towards playoff contention. Nobody's saying it was perfect, but the point is clear. People believe the Fever are headed somewhere because their culture feels stable, and that's attached directly to Clark's behavior. So if the WNBA's future is looking at two examples, one of constant conflict and another of cohesion, which one do you think the next generation of players will want to follow? Clark's reflection is clean, straightforward, and about the unit. Reese's is cloudy, selfish, and already exhausting to watch play out this early in her career. That's why you see fans flock to Fever games, why jerseys keep flying off shelves. Integrity is easy to spot, and so are distractions. The story of Angel Reese exposes flaws, but the rise of Caitlin Clark shows exactly what leadership can be when it's real. The Chicago Sky's mirror wasn't broken at all. The cracks Angel Reese kept pointing to were her own reflection. Leading the league in turnovers despite missing weeks of action showed the illusion of her as a leader was just that, an illusion. Fans don't want excuses and finger-pointing. They want players who show up, lift others, and make the game better. That's why the choice is obvious. Support athletes like Caitlin Clark in the Fever, who are building steady progress, not chaos. Reese became a cautionary tale. Clark and Indiana represent the hope of where the WNBA is headed.